Hello and welcome to episode 89 of the Movie Bros podcast. We are your hosts, as always, Duncan and Hayden. Hello, hello.
Hello, space travelers. Welcome to the podcast.
And if you are a new traveler to us, if you are an alien species that we've discovered, whatever it may be, this is a weekly podcast of two brothers who pick a movie, watch that movie, discuss, ramble, banter, argue, dissect, all the things about said movie. We cover all genres, all eras. If you have recommendations, as we always say, you can reach out to us on Spotify and on YouTube and on Instagram. Find us wherever and reach out if you'd like. This week, as Hayden kind of alluded to, we are going to be doing a space movie. We're going to be talking about Project Hail Mary, 2026 release. Hayden, what are some fast film facts about Project Hail Mary?
So, as we say, this was released 2026. We literally saw this 3 or 4 days ago. This is directed by Christopher Lord and Phil Miller. Wait, no, that's backwards. This is directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Other things you might know them from, and a lot of these don't feel like they belong in the same kind of category of the movie we're about to talk about, but I think there are similarities across all of them. They directed the first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, both the 21 and 22 Jump Street remake, much of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the TV show, the first Lego movie, and they're also slated to make an adaptation of Artemis, Andy Weir's next book. This is written by Drew Goddard. He's sometimes a director, mostly a screenwriter, known for things like Cloverfield, lots of the original Lost, Cabin in the Woods, World War Z, The Martian, Bad Times at the El Royale, and the original season of Daredevil on Netflix.
Okay.
Based upon the book, obviously, as I think I kind of alluded to earlier, by Andy Weir, who also wrote The Martian. Music here is by Daniel Pemberton, who is very, very prolific. There are multiple entries on his credits list, so I just kind of picked ones that might be relevant to both me and Duncan, but also things that our audience are more likely to recognize, because there's a lot of TV and lots of short films. He did the music for both Spider-Verse movies, and I assume probably the next one. He did The Man from U.N.C.L.E., King Arthur Legend of the Sword. He also did Birds of Prey, which we reviewed probably a year and a half ago. Both the Enola Holmes movies off of Netflix, See How They Run, which we also reviewed probably a long time ago. I don't remember what the date was.
Mm-hmm.
Fly Me to the Moon, which I know Duncan saw, but I have not.
I didn't see it.
I thought you had. The one
We
with
showed it
Channing
at my
Tatum.
work for like a week and a half. I didn't actually sit down. It looked fine. It looked fun, but maybe
It
not
looked
a
like a
good
date night movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other, possibly not a date night movie that I think you actually did watch was Materialists.
Yes, yeah, I saw Materialists.
Cinematography here is by the uber talented Greg Fraser. Again, lots of things on his credits list, so I'm just going to list the big ones here. Obviously, The Batman, Dune 1 and 2, Zero Dark 30, Rogue One, The Creator, Lion, and Snow White and the Huntsman. This stars Ryan Gosling, Sandra Hüller, who was the lead in Anatomy of a Fall, which is, I think, maybe our second or third movie we ever reviewed ever. James Ortiz, featuring Lionel Boyce, Milana Vayntrub, Ken Leung, and Priya Kansara as the voice of Mary. I didn't think to get any trivia here, but also it's a brand new movie. I don't know that there would be any out for me to grab.
I would say the trivia might be it's doing very well, perhaps.
It's doing very, very well, yes.
I think this is the first kind of blockbuster movie that Ryan Gosling has opened where he's the lead, like it's his movie.
Well, I also
he's known for like a little more off the beat, like he's the pretty boy that happens to do kind of artsy movies.
Yeah.
Like The Other Guy or The Nice Guys or Drive, stuff like that is not super like it's not going to be the summer movie, and this is turning out to be probably one of the bigger movies this year.
Barbie was a pretty big movie.
Yeah, but it wasn't his movie.
I mean,
it was Barbie's.
I guess that's
Drive
fair.
was his movie. The Nice Guys was him and Russell Crowe, but like this
should have been a larger movie, but
yeah.
Regardless. Well, I feel as though I know how both of us feel about this, but for the sake of tradition, Duncan, what's your rating here?
I teeter between a 4.5 and a 5. I don't really know what I'd want to change about it to make it a 5, but I also don't know if it's like a I don't know. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but I have been going back and forth.
Okay. Well, I'm also going to give it a 5 out of 5.
Mhm.
Not that I wanted to find problems with it, but like I was trying to think, okay, is there a reason why I can't give it a 5 out of 5 other than I just really, really enjoyed it? Like, is there a technical reason I
Sure.
could find? Not really.
I'm looking at so we saw this in theaters only a couple days ago, so we didn't actually take notes. So I've got the Wikipedia for the plot, and then I've got IMDb open with a bunch of stills. And looking at the stills, I'm like, yes. The only thing that maybe like internally in my mind somewhere is like I wish because actually the acting I thought Ryan Gosling did really well, but he's still so pretty. Like he's still Ryan. I think maybe internally I'm like he's too good looking. I don't know what it is. You know what I
I think
mean?
I mean sure, but also it's Hollywood.
Yes, I know, I know.
Everyone's too pretty. I think if you put an actual like disgraced scientist
Well, that's
working
why I
as a
think back
middle
and like I
school
think of
teacher, I don't feel like it'd be watchable. It would not be
well
as good.
when you think like the previous movie that this is kind of coming from is The Martian, and Matt Damon is a good looking guy, but he's not like
Well,
you know. I think he's a little bit like I think this movie rides the line a bit actually being a good heady movie. The Martian was a little too dumb, I think, in some ways. But
I don't know.
well, no, just I think this has a little bit more higher concepts to it rather than one dude hanging out on a rock trying to survive to get home.
There's definitely
This is
more
broad.
there's definitely more fiction in this science fiction, I would say, compared to The
Sure.
Martian, whereas a lot more like actual provable science. A lot of this is very scientifically sound, but they're dealing with aliens and things like that.
Mhm. Yes. Either way, I think that's internally maybe that's really the only quote unquote fault I can find, even though again, looking at this, I'm like, that's not really a fault. Not
I think
really.
the only fault I could really come up with while thinking about it yesterday at work was that this does kind of have a Return of the King syndrome where it ends like 3 different times,
Sort of. Yeah.
but they're all satisfying endings. So I don't know that I mind that much. I did read that the original cut of this was like 3.5 hours long because they tried to put every single thing that happens in the book into the movie and they had to cut like an hour out of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's realistic for adapting a good thick book to a movie is you're not going to be able to get everything unless you do it in a limited series or something like that.
That's true. I just mean that like when the physical release of this comes out, that's almost certainly going to
Be an option.
oh yeah, it'll be an option you can turn on.
So, yeah, we got roughly the same score out of this. And I think before we get into like the actual discussion about the
I mean,
movie,
speaking of the fucking score, goddamn
well,
that music's
hold
amazing.
on. Yes, the music's fantastic. It really this is another movie that I think you and I talked about last week where we were talking about F1, but this is another one where I'm like, this clearly would not feel the same if I saw this at home. Like this is meant to be seen
See,
on a big screen.
I think it's definitely better on a big screen, but I
Yeah,
disagree that
really.
this would still be an experience to watch at home. If you had never seen it before, I think you would still get a ton out of it because I think the difference being is that like F1 is all about the sound. It's all about the picture. It- you know,
This
you
has
could have had
better
Michael
story.
Cera
Yes.
playing the main character in F1 and the story and the acting beats would have been the same.
Sure,
I
sure.
think this
I don't
one
know. There's
is
just I
so much more impactful acting wise and emotional arc wise that I think it's better than that.
I guess I think of again. I'm looking at some of the stills. I'm like, man, seeing this truly on like a 70 millimeter IMAX screen would have been absolutely insane.
Sure.
Like I've realized that the only because I now that I've seen photos of like, oh, this is what the screen and picture is going to look like in these different formats. I'm like, man, I really want to go more often if I can. I think it's the Pacific Science Center in Seattle that is the kind of the only local spot anywhere that has 70 millimeter IMAX. So, and they're showing Project Hail Mary, so I'm like, well, if it lines up, I might go see it again.
Yeah, maybe. Well, obviously, we don't have physical notes for this. Is there anything that, I mean, obviously, there's probably lots of things that stand out, but is there anything that you want to talk about in particular?
Well, I think I was surprised that I was okay with a certain amount of Harry Styles music that was used.
It's just the one song.
Well, yeah, but they used it a few times throughout the movie, and actually, like the karaoke scene, which again totally threw me, like not was not expecting that to be an emotional beat, but Sandra Hüller, dude, I was like, okay, this is I kind of, I mean, I think again those were another moment where I'm like, she like the emotional beats for her were really strong there, but then when it cuts to him, where he's like very pretty boy with the sweater leaning against the bar watching her dude, I'm like, in certain degrees, it almost kind of took me out of it because I'm like, this seems a little too
Because he's
not
too good looking.
cliche. I don't know, man. I don't know.
What is he? The fucking, what's the Running Man guy's name?
Glenn Powell.
Yeah.
See, that's different though. Glenn Powell is like pretty boy you want to punch. Ryan Gosling is just pretty boy. Thoughts on Rocky?
Rocky is great. I think that the way that they were able to combine puppeteering and CGI to bring him to life really, really works well.
I didn't realize. I mean, I looked into. I can't remember his name now. Last name Ortiz, the guy who
James Ortiz
puppeteered.
was
Yeah,
originally the
who also
puppeteer.
slash voiced. Yeah, because throughout the movie, I was like, I don't. Am I supposed to recognize this like humming voice? Is this anyone that I would even know? And I'm looking into him. I'm like, oh, he hasn't really like
He's
done much
normally a
acting
puppeteer
or voice acting wise. Yeah, he's more of a puppeteer.
Yeah, he according to the interviews with Ryan Gosling that I've seen, he had such a good back and forth with him when they were just doing principal photography. They decided not to not to dub over him and just use him as a voice.
I thought it was. I mean, granted, I think a lot of this would not be as like a new cool experience if I had read the book, obviously, but like all the physical ways that they communicated, if that was from like creating a database of words or like the little structures that Rocky made,
Sure.
it was interesting.
I really like the idea of the technology that Rocky is using is both highly advanced to where we clearly don't understand it, but then also not that advanced because it's just a bunch of like metal structures. I was glad that so much of this is not explained outside of what we need to know for the plot to function. Like where is Aridin? Doesn't really matter. How is he breathing oxygen there at the very end of the movie? Spoiler alert, doesn't matter. You know,
What
where's
do you mean? They
Rocky's
created the
eyes?
dome. They created that dome that's going to have the right conditions for
Well,
Ryan
right, but
Gosling, and
it's
that's why Rocky was in the little like body armor stuff.
sure. I just mean that like it's not really going in depth on how all that works.
Sure, I think there are some things that were like, oh, we need to be very upfront and clear with our quote unquote science, and then there's some stuff where like, I think it's okay if it's just it works, and then we're just going to keep going.
Yeah. I did have the thought that this is I was comparing this in my head a lot to Interstellar. I mean, there are very big plot differences between
Sure, but they
Interstellar and
are. I
this.
think they're cousins for sure.
Absolutely, and this feels like Interstellar if it was hopeful. Because
Yes.
so
Yes,
much of Interstellar is really like intentionally very bittersweet with everything that it wants to do. And this is just like, what if we were just positive and we made friends in space? That's yeah.
Yeah, I think I even wrote that on my letterbox review. I was like, "Oh, this is just the happy cousin of Interstellar."
Very
Not that
much so.
like the end and stuff like that of Interstellar isn't positive, but most of the movie it's a much more not inherently pessimistic, but
I think it's very pessimistic for lots of the movie. I mean, it's an amazing movie. Acting's great, story's great, but like so much of that movie is all these other things we've tried have failed. Everything is going wrong. We get to the final destination that we're trying to get to just to find out it was all for nothing. We have to go back and restart at the very end of the journey. So much of it is about trying to overcome disappointment. And I like that this one is essentially just we're starting out at rock bottom, and then the movie continually tries to improve not just, Ryan Gosling's mood, but everyone's mood throughout the entire runtime until the very end. And in a similar way, I like that Ryland Grace, Ryan Gosling's character, who we almost never hear referred to by his first name. It's usually just Grace.
Yeah, he's just
but
Grace. Yeah. Which I feel like that is if you're in the military or anything, no one really talks by first names. It's all last names.
that's
And if
very
this
true.
is a military operation, then
I like that his character arc almost entirely is finding his bravery and finding his empathy, because
and finding his
huge-
memory.
well, that too, but like there's a huge plot point that we get later in the third act that actually happens before the movie starts about, hey, he's going to back out and try and literally run away from his responsibilities, which is why he has no memory. And I like that towards the end, he decides he wants to be a good person, essentially.
Yeah, the whole switching I mean, I don't know how much of this we want to. Oh, we kind of. Well, we should. Who cares?
We should probably just say that we're going to spoil stuff for the movie because it's hard not to.
Yeah, the whole when they're building their bank of words, changing his words for stupid or whatever for brave.
Yeah,
and obviously that being a moment that he has with Rocky. Yeah, I think that's a major, I guess, theme throughout is him finding that. And for someone who, like, again, when they flash back to the past of him being not inherently like,
well, he's not like, I would say, yeah, he's just more cowardly. I wouldn't say that he's a bad person. He's clearly trying to help and do things, but it's more so about him being just very afraid.
Yes, and then I'm literally looking at stills right now, like when he's like smashed his face against the comm right before Rocky has to pull him off. Like he's doing a lot of stuff that his previous self would never do, going out on a spacewalk multiple times.
Yeah,
all kinds of stuff, and I think part of that actually only works because he didn't know his previous self. He didn't know he was supposed to be a coward.
Very true. Very true.
Which, speaking again, I'm just looking at these stills. I think a lot of space movies specifically usually do this really well is because space has a lot of the night sky might look really full, but there's a lot of empty space, so there's a lot of just black. I think a lot of space movies looking at these stills use color to really make the blacks. There's a lot more contrast. So like the part where he's standing above the green planet before they scoop up
it's gorgeous.
The collection, when he's looking at the light trail of the like in the pinks and reds, the massive ship of Rocky that's all gold. There's bits when he's outside of the centrifuge part and it's like bright blues. So, and it also makes me think of Ad Astra. I think does that really well.
That's very true.
Interstellar's not as colorful, and that's another thing that I think really
it's very gray.
Really, that's another thing I think really separates this from Interstellar is this movie. Even just the posters, everything is super colorful.
Yes,
and Interstellar is black, white, gray, and maybe that's quote unquote realistic. Maybe not. I don't know.
Probably so, and I think that I hate to say that I enjoy aspects of this more than our Lord and Savior Christopher Nolan. However,
well, they're very different.
They are very different.
There are things that they are similar. There are a lot of ways that they are different. Is all.
Yeah.
How many people are going to be buying those kinds of sweaters right now? Holy shit!
I think not as many people as perhaps you think. I think maybe lots of women are going to. I don't think lots of men are going to.
Oh, again,
I did like his big yellow like rain trench coat thing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think some of this quote unquote fashion is perhaps more up my end versus yours. Like I'm like, oh look, like the suit that he wears when he's teaching in the classroom. Like, yeah, it's a shirt and tie with a jacket, but it's with jeans. Suit. Or even one of the like a lot of the stuff with the sweater. I'm not a huge fan of the sweater, but what he's wearing, like this, I don't know. I don't want to like save this photo and then have to send it to you. But like, he wears some nice denim shirts underneath the sweaters that look nice.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of just seeing in the background his relationship with I can't think of the black guy. I can't think of his name. in the movie.
Yes.
Lionel Boyce plays him.
Yes, I can't remember his name
I
either.
can't think. Carl. Jesus. Either way, that bit was fun. And those are the parts where I was like, okay, this feels a little bit like The Martian because it felt like science experimenty, but I don't know, the kind of jokey.
Science, yeah, as I say, it's science experiments, but it's both intentionally being explained in a way that the audience can understand it, and it also makes it look like it's fun.
Yes.
And I think, looking back to why I think this is probably more effective than The Martian, because The Martian also does that. Both with Carl and with Rocky, it's better that the main character has someone to talk to and have, a back and forth with.
Well, yes,
So
that's
much of Mark Watney
absolutely
is
true.
just him talking to his screen, which is still fun, but it's
just not
not.
the same. Yeah.
It's not the same. So there's a bit towards the end which I'm gonna go ahead and fully say that I saw this explained by someone else that I thought was clever. When we see Sandra Hüller on that big boat at the end, when she gets all of the
Yes.
all of
Where
the
the world
mail,
is
and
starting to
she's,
get cold. Yeah.
well, it's not just that, but if you look at her neck, she has this tattoo in French that basically means that she was incarcerated in a French prison for life, with the implication being that the future that she described to
Grace.
Grace in the office before he's like tackled and forcibly
Mhm.
put on the spaceship came to pass, to where the governments didn't work together. They tried to find a scapegoat. They
Yes.
decided it was her. So the implication is that she broke out from prison and is hiding in the Arctic somewhere.
I like that. I'm here for that.
Apparently there was something that they filmed, but cut for time, was that there was a scene in the book to where that the world is starting to cool and things are starting to get very, very cold. So they try to speed up global warming by collectively nuking Antarctica, which I think is an interesting idea, but
Interesting
that's
idea.
really fucking grim and would not fit the
Yeah.
rest of this movie.
I'm glad they didn't include it because I don't think that would really vibe with the rest of the movie at all.
No.
Well, I mean, not to like jump ahead or anything, but I think this movie very easily both buckets and or merchandises because they've already done it. But the
As I say, I
whole
think I've shown it to you.
yes, yeah, I think it works well. I think this is the kind of movie to have something like that because
Yeah.
no, it's not quote summer, but I think this is going to be one of the big like blockbustery quote kind of movies for this year.
I'm torn. I don't get me wrong, I'm glad it released. I just wish it was closer to award season, because I fear that
Yeah,
this is going to be forgotten in the shuffle
sure.
of things like Dune Part 3 and Disclosure Day and things like that, and that it
Yeah,
might
I
be
get that.
overlooked come award season, because I feel like it definitely should grab up lots of things. It's not even,
Cinematography or anything
I mean,
else, yeah.
visual effects alone, the music,
Mhm.
which is super beautiful and stressful all at the same time. I was surprised to see Daniel Pemberton attached to this, just because it's so not like his style. Usually he's very action adventure, percussion heavy, and this is not that, but still obviously very, very good.
I'm curious to see what both really everyone in like looking at the both the cast and the crew, like, okay, sure, this if you weren't already aware of both the leads in this, you are definitely going to be more aware. And even the directors or the cinematographer, what are they doing after this? Because this is I mean, even just looking at IMDb, there's like a quote star rating of how often people are looking up these kinds of people, and
Yeah.
this is out of millions. I think now Ryan Gosling is number 2. So
Well,
he's
sure.
he's now kind of the guy. And looking, oh yeah, I completely forgot he's got Star Wars coming.
I was gonna say,
Totally
yeah,
forgot
he's
about
gonna be
that.
in Starfighter here this summer, I think.
Yeah, and then it looks like he signed on to do something with the Daniels, the two guys last name
It,
Daniels who did Everything
yeah,
Everywhere All at Once, which
could be
that's
good,
interest. It's
could be weird.
interesting.
I am Their movies remind me lots of like Yorgos movies, to where a lot of them sound interesting in execution, and then I find myself not enjoying them, but I guess we'll see.
I did also see a couple stills from this new thing that Sandra Hüller's doing called, what is it called? It's Rose.
I've not heard of it. Is it English language?
I don't know. It's all black and white.
Okay.
It looks like turn of the century, turn of like the 1800s or something. Her like in the woods with a huge pistol. I don't know. I know nothing about it. Looks interesting.
Okay.
Um, and she's also in Digger, the new movie with Tom Cruise, directed by this can't Alejandro Inarritu, who you might recognize from
I know him as a director. Yeah,
The Revenant.
Digger, things like that.
Yeah, so interesting to see where these people go afterwards, and if they are planning on adapting another book, if they're going to do Artemis. If the first two clearly have done very well, I think
Sure.
that's going to do probably pretty well in 1 or 2 years time.
Probably so. Yeah. I made the comment to our dad as we were leaving the theater because we all decided to watch it as a family. I Seeing this now makes me kind of wonder what Lord and Miller's version of Solo would have looked like. Because
I thought about that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy Solo a
I
lot.
actually, yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, I honestly really enjoy Solo.
So do I. I mean, and that's and just to say, like, that's not a knock against what Ron Howard was able to do at the last minute, essentially trying to cut together
Yes.
and then reshoot a bunch of stuff. Like, it's still a very enjoyable movie. And what I have seen, proposed online often is that Chris Lord and Phil Miller really like to have their actors improvise.
Hmm.
So there's probably a lot more just conversational stuff and not a lot of like carefully planned dialogue. Apparently, one of the few scenes that they wrote and shot that remains in the movie is when Han meets Chewbacca in that big muddy pit.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just curious, I guess.
Well, if
Well,
someone saw this, I feel like it'd be pretty not easy to be like, oh, you can probably check out The Martian, or even if you want something a little more
I was gonna say
heavy, check out
there are
Interstellar.
things perhaps visually similar. Tone wise, though, I think what makes this so good is that it is surprisingly positive. I don't know that you would be able to find it that easily.
Yeah, even next to, I mean, so Interstellar, I think, is on one end of the positive vibes. Martian is more positive, but there's some serious notes in that. But this is by and far away. You're like, oh, you're most of the time you're either smiling, there's going to be some chuckles. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's some serious bits, but for the most part, yeah, I agree.
I guess obviously we would recommend The Martian or Ad Astra, maybe. Obviously Interstellar, but just those are all a lot more serious, I guess.
And I just want to shout out the Russian engineer who died. That she got not a whole lot of screen time, but she's the babe, the AT&T girl. That I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
shut the fuck up! What the heck?
well, I mean, it is sometimes hard to remember that people in commercials are just like normal actors and actresses. So it is kind of weird to see them pop up in other things. Like she's been the voice actress for Squirrel Girl in Marvel Rivals now for a couple of years.
Hmm. Okay, lots of different ways to make a living in
Sure,
entertainment.
sure. Well, it's bucketed, it's recommended. We're going to move on to things we're looking forward to. We were going to try and talk about any of the trailers we saw pre-roll this, but none of them were things that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, so there's Backrooms, there was Masters of the Universe, there was
Dune and
Dune,
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Sure, there was probably more because there was like 25 minutes of trailers, but either way, Spider-Man looks like a lot of fun. Dune's, I think, going to be a banger.
I'm cautiously curious about Backrooms, but I fully understand that it's just a me thing. I kind of want to see what they do with it.
Sure, I think that is going to
Super,
be a more limited audience,
oh for
obviously.
sure. Super Mario Galaxy, I think looks incredibly brainless, but
Yeah,
just
Jesus
as fun as
Christ.
the other one.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. I think there's a time and
Neither of
place
us,
for just something
sure,
that's fun.
sure. Neither of us are either the right age demographic or whatever for Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I hope it's fun. I don't know that I care.
That's kind of, again, I don't care. Yeah. Is there anything else this week that has come out?
Well, I did see that Speed Racer is getting a re-release to theaters this month.
I
They
would go
haven't
see
put
that.
out they haven't put out specific dates, but I did save it in case we
Hmm.
wanted to do that because I know we both really enjoy that. And then they are
Sure.
also releasing it in 4K Blu-ray since physical copies were hard to come by for a while for some reason. I think that might be it. So, Duncan, what else have you watched if you've had the chance to watch anything else?
When did we last record? I'm looking at my
Last week.
letterbox diary. Was it last Wednesday? Or did we push it a day or something? I feel
I
like it
think we
was.
pushed it a couple days, so there may not be anything new. I'm not sure.
Well, we also watched Skyfall the same day that we watched Project Hail Mary.
That's very true. Two
I think it's a
banger
perfect
movies in a
movie
day.
for a James Bond movie. I think it's perfect from start to finish. Roger Deakins is fantastic. It's
The
the
ending
Bond.
shots when he's walking away with the fire behind him
There's all kinds of
on the
stuff.
moors,
Yes,
incredible.
yes. Yeah, literally start to finish. The trade-off is I think you need to have some reference of Bond before you get into it. You can't just jump to that. You need some, for sure.
I think you would have need to have seen the other Daniel Craigs, but I don't know
Yeah,
if
that's
you
what I'm
need to
saying. Like, you
watch
can't
like the
just start
Roger
with
Moore
that.
stuff.
Well, yes, no,
I
I'm
thought you
saying
meant like the other ones.
because I'm like, oh, that means like yes, Casino Royale is also fantastic, but that means you still have to watch Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, and then literally right before we recorded this, I just started Spectre because I'm going through those because I would like to rewatch No Time to Die, but I felt like I wanted to rewatch the rest of them prior.
My condolences.
Well, the trade-off is really okay. So I am about 20 or so minutes in, and the whole opening sequence when it's the
Yeah,
Day of the Dead, it's
the
great.
Mexico sequence is cool. I just remember the movie having really slow pacing for some reason.
So maybe, once I finish this and I'll probably talk about it next week, maybe I might have different feelings, but I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't as bad as I remember. What else this week, if anything? Project Hail Mary. Did we already talk about Crazy Heart?
We did.
Okay, then that is literally all I've seen technically since I think we recorded late,
That's okay.
and it's been one of those weeks. So yeah,
It's all good. Trust me, I've started a new job and it's thrown my sleep schedule a little bit out of whack. So I literally have not had the chance to watch anything else. I mean, I've technically had the time, but I've not used it to do that yet. I did unfortunately get like 15 things at
I
the
heard.
library
Yes.
all show up at once. So this coming week, I'm going to have a bunch of horror movies to run through, and maybe I'll finally get around to making my own horror movie podcast once I have a bunch to actually get to. But there are other things that deserve my time first. Regardless, though, probably next week we're going to have more for this section. But for right now, I think this has been episode 89. You know what? We should do something for episode 100. We should make that our first episode with video.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
We can start thinking about that now. This will be cut out. It's fine. Cut this. So this has been episode 89 with Project Hail Mary. We both enjoyed that. We recommend you try it out. It's in theaters right now. I'm sure it'll come to streaming in like a month or so. Hopefully it stays in theaters that long. This is Hayden and Duncan. Catch us next week for Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson. I believe that is streaming on Netflix.
Netflix.
So join us for that next week, and we'll see you then.